Okay, a couple of turns later, uh, the green player launched his Bernal, and they have been collecting their free aqua for a while now, so they're up to 8 here. Uh, in the end, they had to throw away all the cards that they actually had from the quick start in favor of just keeping the Bernal and the generator in order to launch it. And then they got this Prospector Colonist. This one gives, as a free action, you can do a prospect, and you can also do a promotion as a free action. So this card is not great in the early game, I think. You're probably not going to bring 3 mass just to have a save 1 action on the prospecting roll. But later on in the game it could be quite valuable. And this one actually has a yellow, the yellow ideology. So when green got this colonist, he also got this delegate in Unity. Now, if there is a war or anarchy breaks out, and war and anarchy in module 3 are basically the same thing. One thing that happens is that these colonists get decommissioned, the one that belongs to the other side. So green is on the what is called independence side here, and yellow is on the loyalist side. So this colonist will actually disappear. But green can use this, keep the delegate, but the actual colonist card will be discarded. So that's probably going to happen, if not in war, at least in an anarchy round. So one thing that did happen was that green player was actually able to get hold of a solar sail. I mean, they only had 2 cards, and that was the Bernal and the generator. So now they have been loading up a little bit on cards, and to try to compete with yellow, they got the solar sail to put some pressure on, and they just landed here in, what's that, the Venus zone. Whereas the yellow player has gone around picking up another glory chit. So they landed, I think it was on Apophis, and picked up the Earth chit, and they just delivered it back to Leo. And now I think the goal here is to go and try to get the Mercury chit, which is actually, how do you do that? You have to land on Mercury itself, which is a bit tricky. Okay, we'll see how we do. Maybe we go out to Ceres instead. But in the meantime, they have been boosting a lot of cards. So they have a decent rocket going soon, I think. They have a lot of stuff, Robonaut, refinery, thruster, everything ready to go. And they can use the sail and the crew rocket as well. I think maybe they're a little bit behind the green player, because the green has already gotten the Bernal app, and they are kind of building up a rocket too, but still they're a little bit ahead in terms of glory, and probably will try to industrialize something as soon as they can go out and claim something. Okay, so now we're going to the last year of the first sun cycle, and we get a 5 for the event, which is actually Anarchy. Oh wow, okay, so this means that basically you use the war rules. So what happens immediately is 3 things. First, you have the so-called block assignment, which is basically, oh, this should be an extremist. No, the yellow is an extremist here. Okay, so the yellow player will be all the players that are on the loyalist side will be on one, will be allies. In this game, it's only a 2-player game, so we have the independents versus the loyalists. So they can now attack each other. When you have anarchy, you don't need to attack each other, but you can. When you have an actual war, you must stop and fight if you pass each other on the map. But now we have anarchy, so it's basically the same as a war. First you have 3 things. You divide up into these 2 blocks, and then you move the law away to war anarchy. And then, so there are no active laws now. And then we have a purge roll, which is going to determine what. So 2. So actually we have a purge delegate from yellow here. And then at the end of this is the green player's turn now, because he's the first player and moved the token. At the end of this turn, there will be a lot of war restrictions. So let me just go through those. There will be no fine nano, so you can't pay the programmers to avoid hazard rolls. And you can't promote things. That's not going to really, in Venus, Earth, and Mars zones, but that's not going to affect us much right now. You can't initiate research auctions. You can't fly to or from Leo. And you can't have an anchored home Bernal. This will obviously affect the green player. You're not allowed to do boosting or homestead, and you can't negotiate with people from the enemy block, and you can't have enemy colonists, and you can't do free market ops. You can only sell hand cards for 1 aqua max. You can't sell black side cards, and you can't do exo migration. But all these things can be avoided if you have a delegate in the right spot. So yellow player will be able to negotiate, and they will be able to have foreign colonists. They can also do boosting. The green player could try to keep his delegate here, but then he would have to place a bribe disc underneath, and then he could also do boosting. But the green player is a bit in trouble because his Bernal will get unanchored at the end of his turn unless he can petition this law with a delegate here. So looking at the green player here, he has a Bernal at the cycler orbit with a colonist, so it's anchored. So unless he petitions, he will lose at the end of its turn. He will lose this prospecticalness. That probably doesn't hurt so much. He can just wait until the anarchy season is over, and then we'll be able to get a new one. But on the other hand, unanchoring this Bernal is not very good, because then he would lose his faction ability. He can't do power sat. He would also just basically transfer all of this aqua to the Bernal stack, so it would turn into just fuel or water here. So he would be broke. So I think what green player wants to do is to try to petition the authority law. In order to do that, he needs a delegate there, and then he needs to pay a bribe, and if it's another player's delegate, you have to pay 4 aqua as well. But he could just do a fundraise up, and there is no fundraising law right now, so we just get 1 aqua, and then he can put the delegate there and corrupt it with a bribe disc. So I think that's what he's going to do for his op. So he will place a new delegate where he already has one, and then move it into authority. And now it's in the other player's block. It's the loyalist block. So at this point, he needs to also corrupt it to get a corrupted delegate in here. And now everyone can use this law, also the yellow player, but the yellow player doesn't have a Bernal yet. So now he can evade, and he needed to do this because it's in the loyalist faction side of the board. So now he can petition this and evade these restrictions. So he can go through Leo, and he can also have a home Bernal. This home Bernal thing doesn't actually affect the loyalists. So even if the yellow player would have had a home Bernal, they wouldn't be affected. It's only affecting the independents. But not going via Leo is not a good thing for the yellow one. So maybe yellow will also try to put a delegate here. So green now has this sun sail, and it has a base thrust of 0. And because it's a wisp, it gets +2. And they also get, because they're in the Venus zone, they will get an additional 1 here. And using the power sat ability, they can also get an additional thrust because it has the power set triangle there. So you can actually get up to 4 thrust. So I think what they want to do is to move out here. And now they didn't pay this before. They can't do, they will not be able to do Fine Nano. They don't have a delegate. They don't have a delegate here in individuality, so they can't actually pay Fine Nano. So they will just have to make the die roll and see what happens when they go through these crash hazards. So let's roll. If we get a 1, the rocket will blow up. They will still have the glory chit. It's a 3, so they survive. So that's 1 burn here, and then go, where do we go from there? Yeah, probably here. 2 burns. Or actually, then I have to go through this radiation hazard. Maybe they can use they have a, on the rocket they have a ballerina. So one of these intersections, instead of spending 2 boosts, they can just use the ballerina here. So they do that and go to that one. That's not a boost location. And then they've spent 1 boost. And they can spend 2 more here, so then we're up to 3. 4. I mean, I could take the other route here, but then I'll have to roll. No, I think since they have a thrust of 4, they can actually just move 1, 2, ballerina here, 3, 4 on the Earth, Lagrange, Earth Lagrange, and then back to the Bernal. And because the thrust was 4 and the lowest rad hard is 4 for the crew. Actually, this has a lower rad hard, but it doesn't need to do belt rolls. So I don't need to roll because you can't come above 4 with a roll of d6 minus 4 for the thrust. So they get to claim the glory chit on its 2-point side. Now at the end of the turn we have to follow all the restrictions. This generator, by the way, I had to decommission it when we anchored the Bernal, but then I used the solar sail, boosted it up again. I used the solar sail to transport it back to the Bernal. But this prospector colonist, this Boyle Engineering Collective, I have to discard it because it belongs to the opponent's side. So discard the colonist to the bottom of the deck. Another thing that happens is that they have to discard the delegates in the enemy block. They don't have to discard the corrupted one, but they do have to discard the one in Unity. So I put that back in the supply. And now all of these restrictions come into play. So actually, they should have gotten their Aqua for a Homer now, and they could have actually paid for the 5 nano. It was only at the end of the turn for the green player when these war restrictions starts happening. Okay, coming to the yellow player now. They could continue with this very light setup and continue to explore with the solar sail. Problem is that they're at Leo, and the green player has the cycler position with the Bernal. And in Anarchy, you have to ask for you move and then you have to stop at an enemy, and then you can ask permission to continue. My guess is that green player will not allow yellow to just go through without stopping, and then once they're stopped there, they could fire at each other. And yellow, they don't really have any. And they have the crew card, of course, with a ray gun, so that could act as a gun, but the green player doesn't really have much to talk of either. But they also have at the Bernal now their thruster and crew. They could also use the power set ability to do fighting mirror weapon. So I wonder if yellow wants to move actually. It's also where should they move. I was thinking picking up the Mercury chit, but then they have to land on Mercury, and that will be a one-way trip, which might not be so bad, because during Anarchy you can actually decommission your crew. That's a felony, but players are allowed felonies during Anarchy, so you just go on a suicide mission to Mercury. And if it's a suicide mission, why not take the chance anyways to just go through here. But first they need to petition a law, or do they do that? Right. So they can't fly in and out of Leo, and they can't they can have an anchored Bernal because they are loyalists. But since green has a corrupted delegate there, corrupted delegates can be used by any player, so yellow could just use this delegate, petition this no Leo fly zone law, and then leave Leo. So this is yellow players' boosted cards. I was thinking it would be nice to bring a Robonaut to at least claim Mercury. But this Robonaut requires a reactor, and the only one reactor we have now requires 2 cooling, and we don't have any cooling boosted, and we don't even have cooling in our hand. So I think maybe they will just go on a one-way mission to Mercury with the light solar sail ship. And again, they start with 0 boost. They will get +2 because they're just mass 1, so up to 2. And they have a Rad Hard 3 card here, so when they enter belts, if I roll a 6, that will be bad, but I think they might do that. And then they boost up to Cycler, and then green player says, no, I won't let you continue, you have to stop. Okay, so then what happens? I think it's the acting player who decides if they want to fight or not. And they have a ray gun in their crew, so they have a 4 ISRU ray gun. And with that, they could attack first. So you get 2 dice minus the ISRU, and if they get, so it's not a man target, it will be a man target because it's they have people there currently at the site. So 2 dice minus 4. If you get 7 or more, then you get an effect. Sorry, it's of course this column. Space target effect. So I think they only need to get above 1, and then they get a zap result, which is basically a zap decommissions 1 card fires charged with radiation hardness less than the fire value. Okay, does that mean that if they roll really high, they can decommission the entire Bernal? So I think it means that if they roll, what do they need to roll? 12 minus 4, that's 8. So yeah, if they roll double 6 boxcars, then they can actually decommission the Bernal. This will be a genocide, which will, then they will have to discard all the delegates and give all their bribe chits to the green player, so maybe they won't do that anyways. But I think, yeah, I think they will attack. So since they're using a ray gun, the attacker fires first. So it's 2d6 minus 4. 7. Okay, 7 minus 4 is 3. So I think the only card that they could decommission is the thruster, actually. So that gets decommissioned. They have to pick 1 card, so they get this zap result, and that means that they can decommission 1 card, Fire's Choice, with rad hardness less than the fire value, and the fire value was 7 minus 4 for the ISRU of the ray gun. Now the defenders can fire with all their weapons. I think they only have 1 weapon. This Bernal is not rad hard 8 or more, then they could have fired with the Bernal itself as a gun. But this doesn't have a ray gun, but they have a faction ability with power sat, and they can use this fighting mirror. So if they have power sat and an ISRU at the location, which they do, they can use the mirrors to direct energy towards the enemy rocket. So they will have the same, minus 4. Might be another decommission of a solar sail. We'll see. 11 minus 4. And that is so that's 7. I mean, they can decommission the crew or the thruster. So since yellow player was the one that initiated the attack, they are the only one who can get a victory or a victorious attack. And they managed to damage something, so they are actually on their way to get a victory, which mean I will go through that later. But now they can, the defender, if they were the attacker and decommission, or you decommission everything so that the crew is alone without any thruster except their crew thruster, then they can claim this as a prisoner of war. But since they're defender, they can't really do that. I think it's best for them to just decommission the solar sail back to the hand of the yellow player. And then at the end of the combat, both players can decide to decommission surviving non-human cards. Non-human cards, okay, yeah. So then yellow will be stuck with the crew. Okay, then they will get taken as prisoners next turn, probably. Yeah, okay, but that's what green's gonna do then. They decommission the thruster and the humans are left in the space. Okay, so first they get to flip an enemy propaganda. And I think yellow player, they can't flip this one with an extremist yet, so we'll just flip this one, I think. And then they get to steal a glory. So green player only has one glory chit. They will steal it and put it with yellow's glory chits. And now you can see here if they have, I mean, in the rules it says that you can claim, if you're victorious, you can claim a human as a prisoner of war if they are the only ones with a thruster, but I don't know if the Bernal, I guess it counts that they have a thruster there. And it is actually operational as well because they have the generator. So it doesn't seem to be an exception for Bernals, although I think it's strange that if you have a Bernal without a thruster, but in this case they also have a thruster, so they can't claim any prisoners of war. Okay, so yellow they still haven't done any operation. I guess I could boost because I have a delegate in Unity, so I can evade the boost restriction. Or just take one aqua. If I boost all of these, it will cost me 2. Can't sell any cards, can't initiate research auctions. I could do a fundraising to get a delegate. Into equality, and then bribe that one, and it's not great though. It would be easy to flip that delegate later and steal the bribe disc. Maybe just wait it out. I think I will do a fundraise. Just take one aqua. And I need a delegate. I guess I could put one delegate here. I don't need one here because that's a corrupt one. I could go to freedom here so I could sell cards next turn. New year. So now this is a bit annoying for green player because now you have to give back first player to yellow, which means yellow starts now. Okay, I think what they want to do, so they get a back-to-back turn now because they became first player. I think they want to boost this thruster again to go out and try to rescue the crew. The hope here is that they will have to stay at the cycler orbit because they can only do actually that rocket should be in Leo now, because if they want to transfer the sail or the cargo, the crew to the sail, they will have to stop there in any case. This means that the green player will be able to attack on the green player's turn, and they might kill off the sail again and then take the crew as prisoners of war. But since they have a ray gun here, they will fire first. And if they manage to decommission the crew card, then the green player will have no weapon on his turn. So okay, so yellow will boost this one. They might as well boost something else as well. And they can do that because they have a delegate in Unity, so they can boost. I'll boost this Robonaut as well, up to Leo. That cost me 1 aqua. And actually, this crew card will have to be an outpost. And the rocket will be just a thruster again. So there's an outpost at the cycler orbit, and the rocket is back at Leo, and we do 1 boost here. And no matter what the green player says, they will just stop there. And when they stop, they take back the outpost and put the crew together with the thruster in the rocket stack, and they will not attack this time. Okay, green player again. They will have to petition to keep their Humbernel anchored, which they do because they have a corrupted delegate in authority. And yeah, they should probably... Can they boost? They can't boost because they don't have a green delegate or a corrupted delegate in Unity, so no boosting for them. So they can't really... They can do a research auction though, but they have 4 cards in hand. They have some stuff at the Bernal. So they can initiate the research auctions because they have this cube here, but they can't sell anything because they don't have a delegate in freedom. I mean, the question is if they should attack or not. They can use the fighting mirrors, then they get -4 to their roll to decommission the crew. They would need, yeah, but they have a ray gun, so they will fire first. I think unless you have a ray gun and a special faction ability, you basically always fire as the defenders always fires first, so, or very often. Which means that they can decommission this crew if they roll high enough, if they roll 8 or more, and then, I mean, I guess it's worth it. If they roll 12, they decommission the Bernal, so that's also not great.